What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power. What you gonna do when they show up?
Hello, this is Matt Bergman, and you're listening to the PRL podcast, episode 3. I am here with Jared Schneiderman and Alex Schlegel, the intellectual. Jeff Siegel
you just call me Alex.
Jeff Siegel couldn't make it tonight because we're all in Baltimore. And
shit is fucking crazy.
Yeah, dude. Why
There's
don't
a
you tell us
CVS
about
that's burning to the ground as we speak.
Is that for real, or are you just joking?
No, there's
a CVS burning right now?
yeah. There's. Do you have a
Damn.
picture on there?
Yeah, apparently they're Baltimore City Fire Department. They're trying to put the fire out, and the looters are cutting the hoses while they're trying to put out a fire. So
That's pretty fucked
is
up.
that wonderful? But yeah, luckily we're safe in Matt's basement, hunkered down here,
Armed.
Heavily armed.
armed and ready with our MREs.
Armed in a blaze.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, like Jeff lives downtown, and he didn't want to drive through the city to come out to my place. I live like a little outside of the city, just in the county. And he just didn't want to drive to the city just in case, the shit hit the fan tonight. So I called up Alex, and Alex came over. He was down to chill, hang out, and, just talk about stuff. So, yeah, Baltimore, it's been pretty fucking crazy this week. It's basically, it's all about Freddie Gray. Freddie Gray was arrested for doing two things. He made eye contact with the police, and he ran. Neither of those two things are illegal, but he was still arrested. So, the whole incident. So basically, he was arrested, and at some point, he was thrown in the back of a white police van, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wagon.
Yeah, and they do this thing, what is it called, a nickel ride?
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's called a nickel ride. So they'll drive the van really fast and then just, stomp on the brakes and rough people up. And it happens so much that they have a nickname for it. That's the really sad part. And apparently, after this nickel ride, Freddie Gray's spine got severed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But apparently in the video, he was already limp, so he's obviously injured, and the cops proceeded to throw him in the back of the van regardless.
So he was injured prior to.
They don't know for sure, but in the video you could tell that he was obviously injured.
Right.
But yeah, they didn't call for medical assistance till it was too late. Obviously, after he went on this ride, apparently. So
And it's just fucking crazy when you think about, there's no legitimate reason to arrest this guy, and now he's dead.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the whole, getting charged with resisting arrest, and that's the only charge.
There's
it's like, well,
yeah, exactly.
why were you getting arrested in the first place?
So speaking
Exactly.
of why did you get arrested in the first place? One of my friends posted earlier. Source is the Maryland Department of Justice, and it stems back from back to 2008, and pretty much the vast majority of it is possession of narcotics or distribution of narcotics. There's one stolen property and one burglary, so that could be.
What is this? What is this?
It's his whole arrest record leading up to the night he was.
Yeah, but I mean, his arrest record is totally irrelevant in that they had no real reason to arrest him.
Right.
They didn't know his fucking arrest record.
I mean, he wasn't wanted.
Did
was
they have
he
his
already...
name at that point? Yeah, I mean, they had no probable cause to arrest him. He hadn't done anything illegal. This is stuff that they Googled after this guy is fucking dead.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
This is it's just fucking irrelevant.
That was the point I was getting at. Is people are not maybe trying to justify this, but just saying, "Oh, this guy was just he's just a petty drug dealer," Trying to,
right. Well, that's what they said for pretty.
Why are you protesting for this guy? He's just
Right. Well, I mean, that's what they've said about pretty much everybody, right?
And there's
all the people
so
that have
many
been victims of this.
Also, think about it. There's so many fuck up laws in today's society. So many laws that you or I could never read in an entire lifetime, that we could never comprehend, laws that you're breaking by accident. You know, that it's basically anybody could get killed, and anybody could look in a computer, and chances are you got arrested for doing some dumb shit. You know,
Right.
You know, I've heard really funny stories why people have gotten arrested. You know, it's and they could be like, well, he did that. You know, that makes it okay. So what was one of those, selling narcotics?
Yeah,
That was one of the reasons. Oh yeah, you should die for that. Yeah, totally,
right.
you should die for that. Yeah.
So you know, moving on to the actual protests and riots themselves. I mean, there's a lot going on here. I mean, you've got what started off as mainly a peaceful protest, and it seems like with all these, it always ends up there's just a small minority of people who are either just extremely emotional, or they're just looking to just cause trouble, and they're the ones that kind of just end up ruining it for everybody. Because once a protest turns violent, then you lose any sympathy for your cause. I mean,
well, I mean, I wouldn't say any sympathy. I would
a lot
say,
of sympathy.
Yeah, I would say this. I would say, like, a lot of the people, you know, I'd say you are gonna like, when you turn violent, you are gonna kind of make the message of the protest a moot point for a lot of people. For a lot of people. You know, not for everybody, but yeah, for a lot of people.
Right.
And those are the people that you need to, like, you know, kind of call some attention to the matter.
Right, especially when you're, you know, damaging private property, which, I mean, it's one thing if you're just, not to say that it's...
Well, I mean, I think when you're damaging any property, I got to say, though, I think it's, you know, smashing the police cars, that's like, that makes sense. You know, the police murdered somebody.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
or
that...
the police committed manslaughter. The police wrongfully arrested somebody and committed manslaughter.
Right. So, I mean, that to a degree...
Somebody's dead because of these fuckers fucking around.
Right. But, yeah, unfortunately, once you start, you know, taking things to that level of violence, it only escalates further, and then people are just not even, you know, just directing their anger towards everything around them. And so you have, you know, CVS is burning down, and regular people's cars getting fucked up, and, you know,
yeah,
that's not good.
It's pretty crazy, because, I mean, you're going to randomly mess up somebody's car. It's like, how do you know this person isn't against police brutality? You know?
Yeah, I mean,
it's
it
like,
could have been me or you driving through, right?
I mean, yeah, it's like, what is the point, you know?
Right.
What is the point? It just seems like the rioters are just seem to, for the most part, to be opportunist. You know, and we're talking about the rioters, not the protesters.
Right.
The rioters seem to be opportunists, and they seem to be fucking things up for the protesters. But, you know, I don't know. I think protesters should probably go into these things with an attitude like, hey, don't get violent. You're going to fuck this up for everybody.
Yeah.
And when you're organizing these protests, you could stress the fact that it's nonviolent. So then, if a couple rioters show up and try to take advantage of things, you're going to be so outnumbered from protesters who are aware of the fact that, hey, we don't want to get violent. This makes us look stupid. This makes us look like imbeciles. This moots our point, our whole reason for being here, our purpose for being here. You know, this. It hinders the change that we are looking to make. This wastes our fucking time. Right. You know? And then you go there, and then, you know, people start to destroy property, and you ostracize them. You know?
You mean you should be ostracizing these people?
Yeah. They should be ostracized. You know?
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the problem.
None of the videos I saw where they're like other people saying, "Come on, guys, stop!" You know?
Right.
It was.
I mean, and some of that's probably just fear. And some of it's
no
probably
doubt, no
just
doubt.
People are extremely frustrated.
No doubt. I'm in no way ragging on any of the protesters at all.
Right.
I'm not ragging on the protesters at all. I rag on the rioters. I think it's just fucking dumb.
Yeah.
But I'm not ragging on the protesters. I'm what I'm doing is I'm just saying, like, hey, maybe the next time we set up one of these, we you know, stress that to people that we don't want this to be violent. You know, violence is what we're opposing.
Right.
You know, we're opposing the violence of the state,
yeah.
of the cops. And
I mean, unfortunately, like there's probably a small portion of people that are like us and are principled and understand that. Unfortunately,
we can make them understand, dude. Seriously, and I don't mean to say like make it them like force them to understand, but
well, I mean that's what we're trying to do here.
Essentially,
right?
you are, dude. If you say it enough and you spread the message out enough to enough people,
right?
It's everybody's gonna fucking get it. And
right.
It's just, things change, It's right now, and in some ways, we're a lot more civilized than when we were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 100 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
So, and who's to know how civilized we're going to be in the future? And I think we're stressing a civilized point of nonviolence. And I think that's totally what the world needs.
Right.
I might be generalizing here, but I think they won't understand the violence of the state just because I'd say a good majority of those participating in the violence today, the looting, the destruction of property, they're wards of the state. They've been educated by the state. Mm-hmm. They've been taken care of by the state, i.e. welfare, EBT cards, and it's been generational. And then they're subjected to the violence of the state, i.e. the drug war, day in and day out, and they don't know any different. They don't know that the enemy is the state in all aspects of their lives.
That's a good point.
That's some pretty deep shit, dude.
And that's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
But they don't understand that, and then you have both sides trying to divide them and say, this is the problem, this is what's causing you to be in this state, or this is what's going on, and people pick sides and they don't see through the bullshit.
No, yeah, I mean, it's the media doesn't help any because they're so busy on concentrating on turning this into a race issue when maybe it's just a police issue,
Well, it's not just a police issue. I mean, there's clearly I mean, like we discussed in an earlier podcast, you have multiple issues that are conflated with each other. You have the race issue, but yeah, I mean, personally, I think that focusing primarily only on the race issue is certainly the wrong way to go about it.
I mean, maybe it should just be an aggression issue, dude. Because the problem is aggression.
Right. I mean, if you eliminate the police state, you eliminate the militarization, all that, you do certainly lessen the consequences of that institutionalized racism. You don't eliminate it, but you certainly, I mean, if you disarm the cops, right, and they couldn't kill people, then you would see less black people dying from cops. So I mean, yeah, from that perspective, yeah, that certainly makes sense.
No, I mean, I'm saying I think the underlying problem is aggression. Aggression is what got Freddie Gray killed.
Sure.
And we don't want cops aggressing on anyone.
No.
Who's innocent of or anyone who's even guilty of a victimless crime,
or anyone that hasn't been proven guilty.
Yeah, because the initiation of force is just a moral.
True that.
But the war on drugs has blurred that because they have to initiate the force, they have to initiate the confrontation.
Yeah, but I mean, more people are waking up to that all the time, Totally.
But not fast enough.
Fortunately.
Yeah.
I think we've seen more traction in like the past, I'd say 3 years than I ever thought I would see in my lifetime. So
yeah, I think
it's really cool because it's been going on for a long time. It's cool that it seems like the brakes are kind of getting hit a little bit.
Right.
A little bit, but I think more or less it's more focused on marijuana and not really on the whole war on drugs on a whole, and really connecting the dots to issues like this, like issues that happen in Ferguson or the Eric Garner case, or this what's going on in Baltimore. They're not connecting the dots between the fact that a lot of this police brutality stems from the war on drugs.
Huh.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I think. Yeah, and going off of that idea, you have so I mean, like, you have the issue of marijuana, which, I mean, people are just kind of realizing, like, okay, marijuana is just basically like a harmless drug. It's less harmful than alcohol. No one ever dies from it. No one ever really becomes violent from it. But it's like you were kind of getting at there. It's kind of missing the point, which is that you should just be free to put whatever you want into your body. I mean, if you want to fucking shoot yourself up with heroin, go ahead, you know? I mean, I don't think you should, but you should be allowed to.
Yeah.
But, you know, and just allowing police and the state to initiate force to stop people from doing that, you're creating more violence. You're causing more issues than the drug itself could ever possibly cause. So I mean, it's all part of the same fucked up system.
Word. Totally.
So
crazy times here in Baltimore.
Yeah,
You know.
stay strapped.
Yeah, man. Definitely crazy.
So you guys want to move on to something else, or
Yeah.
got anything else to say on that?
Word.
So you want to talk about Ronnie Paul?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, like, why don't you go with it? Okay.
All right. So there was unfortunately a BuzzFeed article. I hate to quote a BuzzFeed article, but it's the only source. So basically, Ronnie Paul went on this libertarian radio show.
And who is Ronnie Paul?
Oh yeah. So I'll get to that.
Ronnie
important.
Paul is the eldest son of Ron Paul and the brother of Rand Paul.
Right.
Yeah. So, so what exactly did he say?
Let me pull up the article. Essentially, let me just pull this up real quick. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, this kind of really got me to thinking.
Yeah. So it starts off. Rand Paul's brother says that when it comes to ideology, there's no difference between his brother and his father. And then at the end of the article, he says, he's quoted as saying, "The difference is purely in implementation. If you had a philosophical discussion on what the world should look like, there would be no difference."
Yeah.
So my thoughts on that, I mean, assuming that, I mean, this is kind of like what I've always, you know, I think what we all kind of hope for. Move this mic back a little bit. What we've all kind of, or what I think most libertarians hope for with Rand Paul is that he's essentially just like a closet Ron Paul that's just playing the system, just doing what he needs to do to get in a position of power so that he
We're
can
just waiting
implement
for him to
change.
come out already.
Come out of that
Come
closet.
out of that closet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from you know, if we take this interview at face value, well, it seems like that may be the case. I mean, I don't know. Do you guys think there's any reason why Ronnie would be lying about this?
Oh, maybe because he wants his brother to become president. You know, maybe I don't know. That could be lucrative for your brother.
But
to
I mean,
become
does this actually?
president?
But I mean, does this
You know,
help?
maybe his father's in the political game too. I don't know. I mean,
or just to appease.
I mean, I'm just saying those are possible. You know, this could be possible motives for a brother of a presidential candidate.
Or he knows there's a big donor base of Ron Paul supporters, and knowing that there's a rift kind of between Ron Paul libertarians and you know,
Word.
That's true.
supporters of Rand Paul, and he realizes, well, we better get
Damn, dude.
these
Alex,
Ron Paul supporters back on board. So
Alexis, you just
let me,
laid this shit out, dude.
yeah, let me just let me get on record here and kind of alleviate a lot of Ron Paul supporters' fears that Rand's not like his dad, that, you know, maybe he was dropped on his head as a kid, or I don't know, like he's not all there like Ron is, like, but that could be an angle, but
Yeah, because this is something I think a lot of libertarians have at least considered, you know, and you know,
Wait,
some
which
people-
angle that he's?
like
he's not all that.
like,
He's not all there.
Rand Paul is basically undercover, you know, like he's undercover as a senator, and you know he makes all these concessions just because he's going to try to get in, and he's going to be just as cool as his dad, you know.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of people that even people that don't necessarily support Rand Paul. I mean, or to people that definitely don't support him all the time, you know. But you know, those people I think are still hoping for that.
Right.
And I think maybe it's like, I mean, honestly, if you're Rand Paul and you see your father in Congress and, you know, voting no all the time and, you know, basically just fighting an uphill battle, and to no avail.
Dude, I take it further than that, though. It's not even like just seeing your father in Congress.
Or just those ideas.
This is fucking
the principles.
growing up. Imagine growing up with Ron Paul. Okay? Imagine growing up with Ron Paul and being around Ron Paul's Mises buddies, a bunch of open anarchists, and growing up with the ideas of Murray Rothbard and listening to, reading Mises, just imagine that, growing up with all that. And, he's...
How could you not grow
exactly.
up and be an anarchist?
That's really... exactly,
Yeah, definitely.
So... Yeah, I would imagine he would be more hardcore about those ideas than his father. I would imagine.
More hardcore?
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's David Friedman's a lot more hardcore than Milt was.
That's true.
And it's like, and doesn't it seem like these evolutions happen like through generations, kind of? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the next generation will be freer than the previous generation. And, maybe Rand's mind would be even open more than his father's. And his father has a pretty open mind.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's
it's
just
really
one
hard
way to
it
think
could play
about
out, it could really play out either way. Either theory, the facts and the things that have happened could fit into either one. Either he is undercover libertarian and he's just doing these kind of subtle, or not so subtle, but these calculated moves to win the vote of the neocons and
Undercover Libertarian. That would be like a good cartoon on Adult Swim.
What?
Undercover Libertarian.
Yeah, definitely, I could see that.
Really cool cartoon, dude.
Undercover brother.
Undercover Libertarian, dude.
I could definitely see that angle because you figure he learned, how his dad reached across the aisle and would try to, pass legislation or. And he basically learned that, and you can see how his campaign and how he's setting himself up, and definitely framing the issues to build a broader base. And he's definitely more calculated, and I think that's something that he learned from his father. You can't just be 100% principled. You're gonna have to bring. you're gonna have to maybe not compromise, but maybe.
Or at least appear to compromise.
Appear to compromise and work the system to try to, to try to bring more people in the fold.
Dude, I have I don't know. I think what if it's to
move the football down the field.
What if he meant by implementation wise? What if he meant what if Ron Paul? It was never really about getting elected. It was more about spreading the message.
Right.
Well,
that could
I think
be
that's
too.
become fairly obvious.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, when he's talking about implementation, so it's basically, when he's going in, he's trying to go in it to win it.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think what pisses a lot of people off is sometimes the message gets lost in that, and sometimes he even does things that contradict with the message. So it's it kind of leaves you thinking well, what the fuck's the point?
Well, just the other day I watched a video and he was speaking up in New Hampshire to a bunch of Republicans, bunch of probably Fox News, avid Fox News watchers, and but he basically it was a bunch there was probably definitely there was probably maybe the youngest people there were probably in their 50s, but anyways, he stuck to message. He basically hit on civil asset forfeiture. He talked about foreign policy of non-intervention, not nearly like what Ron would go into, but definitely look, we shouldn't have gone into Libya. Look what happened with Libya. We get involved with sending money to Syrian rebels, and the next thing you know, that turns into ISIS. So basically, he's framing what's going on like framing Obama as failed foreign policy, but basically getting at okay, it's foreign policy non-intervention has got us here. Right. But he's basically and he was hitting on a couple other issues, but far more focused. Where when you would see Ron Paul, he'd be hey, he would just talk about anything and everything. And I think sometimes maybe the message was lost. Well, maybe not lost, but do
you think just it wasn't targeted enough? He was more just preaching philosophy than actually
right. And a lot of times when you're speaking to these Republican crowds or people that are so involved in the system, they can't comprehend the ideas that Ron the philosophic Ron Paul brought in. You know what I mean? He's kind of bridging the gap.
I think they can comprehend the ideas. It just doesn't.
just don't buy into them.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's not even buying into them. It's like they're playing a political game where they're trying to like make money,
right?
And
yeah.
they've got people paying them off, and they're doing their fucking bidding.
But I think you were more talking about just like the average neocon, right? Not necessarily like
not even
the
neocon,
political...
just your average voter, like
right?
just your
right,
average.
Right.
And I think like so he's going out a different way
to.
to.
We gotta explain it to him, dude. And I think a lot of your average voters do have. I don't think a lot of. I think a lot of people, got that message for Ron Paul. Therefore, I think a lot of your average voters are intelligent enough to understand that. I think more people need to hear it. I think a lot of people have kind of turned off the television, and those are a lot of the same people that don't vote. I think they're just sick of watching the news. They don't think politics work very well, or they don't think it's worth their time to even go out and vote. So I think more of those people need to hear, Ron Paul's message.
I think we need to vote Walk of Flame in 2016.
Because I mean,
did you hear about that?
I mean, well, think about like how many people don't vote. I mean, what is it like? Is it like a third of people eligible to vote don't vote?
I don't know. I've heard that stat thrown around, but I've heard it also like contradicted.
Right?
I'm not sure.
It's like, or maybe even it's like 40% or something.
I don't know.
Like, at any rate, it's a fairly high number, So
because you're always voting between giant douche or turd sandwich, and people are tired of it. So
exactly.
I mean, I definitely think the younger generation, you're gonna see a higher percentage as far as that goes. I mean, with the older generation, I still feel like most old people are voting. I don't think anyone's like got, which baffles the shit out of me. Like, you've been around in this country for like 50 to 60 years, and you still haven't figured this shit out.
Yeah, that's just they're trapped.
But that could be because they didn't have the internet.
The inner tubes.
The interwebs.
The interwebs. It's a series of tubes.
Yeah, man. That's why we got to talk to the children.
Yep.
Hey, I thought you weren't allowed near children.
Yeah, that's why we got to talk to the kids, bro.
Anything else we want to talk about on that? So this Jeb Bush story. You want to hit on that a little bit?
Yeah. So apparently, Jeb Bush, he was giving Barry some props this week.
Good old Barry.
Yeah, it's basically.
He's pulling up the article right now, folks.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to that real quick.
Well, basically, he was.
Yeah, you go ahead.
I mean, he was essentially just saying that he supports all the surveillance state stuff. He's basically saying, "Oh, Obama won't admit it, but what he's been doing with that is just so awesome and so good that, we definitely need to keep that up."
It's got to keep us safe.
Yeah,
got to collect all our cell phone records and metadata, and
yeah, he said
keep us safe.
He even said metadata, so he kind of knows what he's talking about.
Oh man, it's so creepy. Okay, so this is Jeb Bush. This is the other idiot son of an asshole, and yeah, man, he's like, I mean, it's so crazy to just think about the possibility of going from Bush to Obama to another Bush. But I mean, it's really just business as usual.
Horrible.
Yeah. I mean, it just goes to show there's really
terrible.
There's really no difference between the two major parties.
Oh, and the system, it's totally just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay, so if Obama's for the surveillance state, and whatever Democratic candidate
which he
wins
won't
next
say
time
in
is for the
public.
surveillance state, and if Jeb Bush wins, and if he's for the surveillance state, where's your choice? You don't have a choice, and Americans seem to be very concerned right now with privacy. And where's your choice? Like we have none.
You have to.
I also thought it was funny how, I mean, it's like he's basically saying I agree with Obama, but then he's got to throw in that thing. Well, Obama just he's got to diss Obama in there to make it seem like he's anti-Obama, but he's not really anti-Obama. He's just he's completely agreeing with him.
Yeah, it's like pro wrestling.
Which wrestler would you say Obama is?
I don't know, dude. I haven't watched wrestling since like early to mid '90s.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
Well,
I used to like
I
the Royal
was into it
Rumble.
late '90s.
Royal Rumble
But
was
anyways.
pretty
Were you gonna say something, man? Did I cut you
Oh
off?
no, they're just they're both Council on Foreign Relations approved candidates. So no difference there.
Pretty much says it all.
Yeah, they're just definitely tools for the military-industrial complex.
Yeah, so this next story that I'd like to touch on is I would say that this is the funnest story of the week. I would say that this story is fucking awesome. This story is totally positive, and this story is basically I don't know. It's just revolutionary. It's really fucking cool, and it's voluntary. And it's DIY. So, the CEO of Gravity Payments, Dan Price, slashed his $1 million a year salary to $70K to raise his employees' minimum wage to $70K. And he says, it's my company and it's my decision. And he's very adamant to say, I am not a socialist.
Yeah, that was like the first thing he said in that interview, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you can see this interview. I posted it earlier this week on punkrocklibertarians.com. And it's just fucking awesome, man. This Dan Price dude is like my new hero. He's just really fucking cool.
Yeah, like he just, one of the things he said was that he got tired of state solutions, like the minimum wage, which don't work. So instead of relying on the government to, make sure his employee...
Well, I don't think he said he got tired of state solutions. I mean, like, he might have implied that.
He said something to that effect.
That they don't work, I think.
No, he didn't even say that. He said the fact that Seattle had to raise minimum wage to $15 shows that, kind of like society has failed at, setting our own minimum wage,
Right, okay.
Like, the market has failed, in other words.
Yeah, but why has the market failed, though? I mean...
Why is the market failed? Because the market's obviously not paying people enough. I mean, it's minimum wage is like a bullshit idea. I agree.
Right.
But, our minimum wage in our country is like just fucking ridiculous, though. It's like a person can't live off that. Try to live off a minimum wage and pay the fucking rent, and
Yeah,
and,
you can't do it.
And now you got to buy health insurance,
right?
Pay the rent, put food in your mouth. Is it any wonder why there's that much crime with when you've got people making that small amount of money? It's I think people aren't making enough money.
Right. So yeah, he basically just took the initiative and was like, I don't need to be making this much money, and what better way?
Well, no, I mean, because I don't think he did it in that kind of like in that kind of mentality. Because what he was saying was he cut his wage to $70K for like this year. Right. Now, if the business does really well, next year he could be making more than $70K. Right. He's saying, and the way
he's basically just reinvested that money into his company through paying his employees a better salary.
Well, he actually said in the interview, if all goes as planned, basically, he could be right back to where he was in either 1 to 5 years. So maybe even in 1 year.
Right.
Like that's if his business does much better. And so far, they've got the phones ringing off the hooks.
Right. And he says that a lot of the reason why his phones are ringing off the hook is because people appreciate the values that this move represents.
Yeah, totally. People want to do business with somebody who has those values, and it hasn't raised the cost of his product.
Right.
So, yeah, that's pretty badass, man.
Alex, didn't you have something you were going to say about that?
I was just going to say, and again, I haven't read the article, but I believe it was Reason Magazine. I don't know. I don't want to, but there are some not negatives, but possible.
Wait,
case in
was
point.
This on InfoWars?
No, it wasn't. No. Alex Jones did not have the documents. He did not have the documents on this one.
Okay. Cool.
The only thing I could see is the fact that so you're taking a hit out of your pay. Okay, that's fine, but you're going to put it into employee salaries and not reinvest in the company, like in innovation or future investments to grow your business. You're basically putting it into human capital.
Well,
and
he begs to argue that is an investment in the company. He says when you help people, he's like they'll work harder for you. You know what I mean? Like they'll have more loyalty to you when you actually treat them good.
Right, like you just said, instead of investing in like actual capital goods, he's investing in human capital.
But like if you're not investing, like case in point, say I'm just gonna, case in point in my industry, welding supply company. Okay, yeah, you could give the owner of our company could give everybody a raise, like $10,000. But if you're not, maybe takes some of the profits and spreads it around, which they do, which our company has profit sharing. But let's just say you don't. Say upgrade your computer systems for your company, or invest in like, hey, we need some new trucks to grow the business to make sure we're continually growing.
Well, it sounds like his company's growing though.
Right.
Well,
I don't know. We don't
I think
know.
it really depends on the industry. I mean,
yeah, everything's different. We don't, and we don't have the numbers. But
so far it sounds like his company's growing so far. He says the phone's ringing off the hook. There's more people that want to do business with him. There's more people that know who the fuck he is. I'm sure it was at least in the slightest bit publicity stunny. But I mean, what's wrong with that? Nothing. That's fucking awesome, man. It's like, nothing wrong with that at all.
I think the only problem
with helping people in the process.
Right. I mean, the only time the problem would arise...
It just sounds like a cool place to work.
Yeah, it does. But, I mean, going off what Alex was saying, like, the issue could arise if they're unable to invest that money to keep up with the growing demand for the business. I mean, just because you have clients... just because you have a surplus of clients doesn't mean that you can keep up with that demand. I mean, yes, it sounds like he is, so that's awesome, and hopefully it works out.
He's got a business plan. It's his like. I mean, it is as much of a shot as anybody fucking else's, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I think.
Yeah, no,
it'll be interesting to talk about this 6 months from now.
Right.
It'd be very fucking interesting. And I think the whole time, I mean, it's like people. I think people want to jump on him right away, like, oh, this guy's a socialist, and it's like, No, he said it multiple times in this interview that he's expecting an ROI. He's expecting a return off of it.
Well, he's also not using guns to do it, right? I mean, that's what socialism is, right? I mean, you're using the state to force equality instead of just
he says he's not a lefty or a righty.
Yeah.
He's looking for a practical solution with the problem,
right?
And when libertarians hear that, we hear in our heads, yes, practical solution without government,
right?
But I mean, and I would like to think that that's what he's alluding to. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think the dude sounds pretty awesome, and I think if more businesses work that way, that would be pretty fucking cool.
Totally.
And I mean, I would like to see more deregulation. I would like to see more small businesses. And I think if you had a free market, you would have a lot more small businesses.
And
I think small businesses also bring communities together, like Walmart could never do. Like any big chain store could never do.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, they're soulless.
Yeah, man. Yes, dude, small businesses fucking rock, man. And if you took like fucking regulations off shit, you would have a lot more small businesses. You would have communities working together.
Yeah, you'd have lower barriers to entry.
Yeah, I mean it's just fucking awesome. I think you would just have better people. You would have better social skills from dealing with your neighbors so much.
Right. Instead of just some faceless hierarchical company.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I mean, it's a really cool idea. So, yeah, I mean, I just think this is the funnest story of the week. Quote. Yeah.
We need we
gotta start doing.
We need a tag for that or something, like a little.
Yeah, I mean,
jingle.
Because so I feel like oftentimes it's so easy to dwell in the bad, and every time, anytime you get a really cool story like this, it's just it feels good. It's like, wow, okay, at least something. Cool
that's kind of the
happening.
problem I have with like a lot of libertarian news and libertarian groups is that they do tend to focus a lot on the negative because there is a lot of negative.
No, and
but
you need to draw attention to the negative. You need to call it out. You need to ostracize those who are performing the negative.
For sure.
But
you also need to spend
you got to get
as much time as you can highlighting
props to the good stuff.
Yeah. You just,
I'm hoping this business succeeds and he'll get a little bit more. He'll get more exposure to this idea, and we'll see more of this.
Do we say the name of the company?
It's like, why would you not want this business to succeed? Yeah, it's
the name of the company is Gravity Payments.
Gravity Payments. Yep. Yeah, and the CEO is Dan Price.
Cool dude.
Totally. Yeah, it's like I read about that, and right away I'm like, I've got to do an article on this. The guy's just so awesome.
Yeah. So, Alex, would you say you're a minarchist or an anarchist?
I'd say I kind of vacillate back and forth between the two, but I'd say kind of a minarchist, I guess. Philosophically, an anarchist, but I feel as though there are some merits to work within the system, even though it's completely flawed, because that's how you're going to bring more people that are still stuck in this system or can't see beyond it to start planting the seeds of a stateless society and self-governance.
Right.
And personal responsibility.
Don't try to plant any of those seeds over here, bro.
It's already overgrown over here. So, but no, I mean, last election I only voted for the Maryland Attorney General, Leo Domowski, just because his whole campaign was legalize drugs and, you know, for...
Who'd you vote for in 2012?
2012...
Did you vote for Big J?
I voted for Gary Johnson.
Yeah,
that was it. And then I just voted no on all the ballot initiatives, and then that was it. I pretty much just left a lot blank, just because what's the point?
Right.
But
I always vote no on like any time they want to borrow money.
Yeah, it's like borrow money. Oh, more
like,
debt, more
cool.
debt on projects that don't need to be done.
Any action really, but yeah. Especially.
But no, I mean, I think that's kind of
like
where I'm at.
Baltimore County wants to borrow $1 trillion for some really stupid shit.
Yeah, plant some more trees.
It's like, well, I don't know. I mean, but when you read those questions, you have to think like to yourself, like, well, I'm getting taxed a fuck of a lot already. Is this something that I want to pay for? And no. I'm, I feel like I'm already being taxed like a motherfucker.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I did last election, and vote for the Attorney General, and it was, basically pro-gun and the drug war. That was his whole platform, and just all the ballot initiatives vote no, because that was about it. So I guess maybe, I don't know, would that be considered a minarchist or anarchist? Or
minarchist is you just think that the best way to have things is to have like a small government that just protects rights, whereas anarchists believe that you don't need any government at all, and in fact, having a government that only does that is still going to have to violate people's rights in order to accomplish that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, but I think to get people to that point, you're gonna have to like maybe wean them off.
Oh yeah,
wean them off the system.
Yeah, it's like
I wouldn't hit the anarchy button like right now.
Right.
Yeah. I wouldn't hit that right now. But I mean, it's just like it's for me. It's like a romantic ideal. Because the argument is if you're a minarchist, you're basically saying if okay, so we don't need the government to do the unimportant things because they'll fuck them up. We just need them to do the really important things. But as an anarchist, you're like, whoa, what the fuck? So if you wouldn't trust government with the unimportant things, why would you trust them with the really important things?
And there's also the problem that what government has ever stayed small enough to be a minarchist government? Like every government's pretty much started off at that level, and then they always grow. So unless you have a very resilient population, like a cancer, unless you have a very resilient, principled population that's
engaged and knowledgeable,
and educated, and philosophically principled. I mean, I just don't see you being able to keep that monster from returning.
Yeah, word. So yeah, I'd say I'm romantically an anarchist. I like the word voluntarist better.
Yeah,
it's not as loaded.
Right.
I believe things should be voluntary, consensual.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the way to talk about it to people. Because when you say anarchist, people conjure up all these images of like mass men throwing bombs, or I'm sure there's people calling the people that are rioting in Baltimore anarchists, but they couldn't be further from the fucking truth with that.
Yeah.
It's really just about.
Well, and that's the thing with anarchists too. With anarchists, it doesn't really. Voluntarist says so much more because I mean,
Right.
you could be an anarchist and you could believe in violence.
Yeah, you could be an anarcho-communist, right? I mean,
Yeah,
technically,
essentially.
Yeah, they make no sense.
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean they make sense to some people.
things they
I mean,
say.
they make sense to some smart people that I know. I mean, it's just basically like, do I agree with it?
I just don't
No,
know how you
like,
could. I just don't get them. I just don't get it.
I think
I don't
it's their
know.
view on what property is. I mean, they see property.
Well, at the same time, I'm
as
not,
like
I'm
a
not a
form of
big fan of
violence.
the anarcho-capitalist thing.
Right.
Yeah, and here's why.
Because capitalism is another loaded word.
Yeah, exactly. Capitalism is another.
We never
word.
had true capitalism, so people's idea of capitalism today is crony capitalism, and
Exactly.
So they don't
Corporatism, yeah.
corporatism.
I like
so
the
they
term
don't.
market anarchist.
Yeah,
the
market.
term
Yeah,
market
I think
anarchist.
it's all semantics. It's all
Yeah.
Oh, it
framing.
is.
But and voluntarist like suggests so much more than anarchist. It suggests that not only do you not believe in the state, but also you don't believe in
Any violence.
you don't believe in any violence
Unless it's in
or
self-defense.
Yeah, exactly. The only force that is justified is that of defense.
Right.
So I mean, how is voluntarist not a better word? And plus, it's a good conversation piece to kind of bring up to people, to introduce them to these ideas, so we aren't suffering through all this bullshit for that much longer.
Right.
What's the difference between a libertarian and an anarchist?
About 6 months.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2 years, but man, you guys are on the fast
Hey,
track.
man. It's the internet, dude.
I was
It
bad.
speeds things up.
The interwebs.
No, I didn't become an anarchist for, like, I don't know, man. I think I was a libertarian for a long time, actually.
Let's
Where I
talk
was an
about that.
anarchist.
How do we all come about to where we are, or to discover? Or
Oh, I think we've already talked about it before, haven't we?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, why don't you tell us
Whatever.
about your first time, Jerber?
Yeah, tell us.
Well, I guess it kind of started back in college. Back in college, I
You were
was
experimenting in college.
I was giving it the old college try, But I mean, I'll admit it. I was basically like a liberal back in college, unfortunately. But so many of us were. It's kind of hard to avoid. But anyway, so I had a roommate who, the first time Obama was running, he was all about Ron Paul, and I was like, oh, "Who's this guy?" And he told me about his stance on drugs, which I was all for. His anti-war stuff, which I was all for. But it was, the liberal part of me was not all about the free market stuff. I had this idea that the free market was just corporations
Evil.
getting control of everything and, the government not being able to check their power and all that nonsense. So I didn't really make the switch at that point. Then I met Mr. Bergman over here when we started working together. And, he showed me some cool stuff. He showed, this was around the time when, the next election was coming up and Ron Paul was making another move. And he started showing me a whole bunch of Ron Paul stuff, a whole bunch of Mises stuff. Who was that other libertarian, Michael Bednarik?
Michael Bednarik.
Yeah, I think he showed me some of his stuff. And I was like, you know what, this is a little deeper than what I had originally thought. So I started really just getting into.
Would you say that we really delve into those issues balls deep?
I would totally say that. So yeah, I mean, I just started, researching. I started reading some Rothbard, some Mises, just all that stuff, and that's basically when I became libertarian. And then the more I read, the more I started to realize, well, do we really need a government? And slowly but surely, I became a voluntarist.
Word.
How about you, Alex?
Alexis.
Oh wow, I don't know. I guess maybe I kind of grew up with it just because my dad was a disenfranchised Republican. I remember vividly. It was like 91, and we're about to sit up, the whole fam about to eat, and the news comes on, and we're bombing Iraq, and my dad, who's a Vietnam vet, was basically like, "Here we go, another fucking Vietnam," and he basically went upstairs. I guess he was upset, and we, like my mom, my sister, and myself, just ate dinner without him. And anyways, long story short, he just was so disenfranchised and really got involved in the Libertarian Party and ran for office, local, And so I kind of grew up with it, but I've always was on the basically more on like the civil liberty issues. Didn't really get into economics until Ron Paul in like 2008. Really got into like I always knew like the Fed and the value of the dollar, but didn't really put it all together. And yeah, so basically Ron Paul really kind of put it all together for me, kind of full circle, and got me more into the economic side of it. And then just down the road to basically voluntarism. So it's kind of where I'm at. And then also being a veteran, I joined the Air Force prior to the Iraq invasion, and then just realized, this is bullshit, and really came at from that point of view, is, the whole military-industrial complex, and, no matter who you vote for, left or right, 90% of them are in the back pockets of the military-industrial complex. So yeah.
How'd you get out of the military?
I just did 8 years. I separated. I just got
okay.
out. Yeah, just got out. Did 8 years in the Air Force, and then being stationed overseas too, because I was stationed over in Korea, and it's like, hey, this is cool. I'm over in Korea, but in the back of my mind, I was like, why the fuck are we still over here? Like, why are we over here?
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I'm having a great time, and then after that, I was stationed in England for 2 years, and I'm like, hey, this is great. Going to punk shows down in London, and traveling the countryside, and but then I'm back in my mind, I'm like, the fuck are we still doing over here? We're spending launching planes, all day long, at the tune of, geez, I don't even know how much it cost, taxpayers, and let alone just our presence over there. And I mean, it's like little America overseas, and most Americans are totally unaware of that. So I think, that just kind of gave me a platform to talk to others. And then when Ron Paul, as a veteran, would talk about these issues, about that we are an empire, and that, and speak about the military-industrial complex, it really resonated with me. So, yeah, it's pretty much how I came about it. So, yeah.
And last but not least, Mr. Bergman.
Yeah. How did I get into libertarianism? I feel like initially when I was 12, I had a history teacher who said, freedom is like this. My freedom ends where your freedom begins. I can swing my arms around all day, but until I hit somebody, that's when I've crossed your freedom, and that's not my freedom.
Right.
It just totally explained freedom. So I'd say that's the first time where it's something made like extreme sense to me, and I don't feel I feel like I never really trusted government before that, but I feel like that was like it was just like a light bulb went off in my head when I heard that. And then when I was 16, I read some Chomsky, and I really agreed with his idea. It like opened up my eyes, like his idea that there isn't much of a difference between the right and the left. Inevitably, like whichever one you choose, you're always going to have the warfare state. You're always going to have the drug war. But basically both sides are bought by the same interest. So nothing really changes. It's an illusion of choice. It's basically, it's like pro wrestling. It's, you watch it and you follow the story, and, no matter who gets elected, not much changes. So at that point, I was a principled non-voter. And I'd say like then the time when I was like I think like 19 or 20, I found out about the Libertarian Party, and I'm like, wow, these people are running, and they pretty much believe what I believe. So I figure if they're going to take the time to run, I'll take the time to go out and vote for them. So that's when I got into like the Libertarian Party.
Right. The political end of things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Totally. But, and then, reading from there, just, reading Spooner and, Carl Hess, love Carl Hess. I got into more of like the voluntarist side of things.
So have you guys heard about this brand spanking new country called Liberland?
It's called Liberland.
That's what I said. Liberland.
Liberland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Liberland.
Not liberal land.
Is that what
That sounds like hell.
Yeah.
Or the United States. So anyways, basically,
big gulps for you.
Basically, there's this little piece of land. It's on the western bank of the Danube River between Croatia and Serbia. And because it's like a disputed land, neither of those countries can claim it. But this guy was able to go in there, plant a flag, and just call it his own country. He's set up a Facebook page. He's named himself president. It's pretty interesting story. But it's funny because in the video these guys are talking about it, and they're like ripping on him for his flag when they're just saying, oh, so you planted a flag, that means you have a country, where it's like,
yeah, exactly, dude. So yeah, you can see this video. We posted this on PRL a little earlier this week, and it's about Liberland. And it's funny because like the news commentators like making fun of this guy because he's got a flag, and it's like, well, how's this guy's flag not just as legitimate as any other flag,
or illegitimate?
Yeah, or illegitimate. Yeah, exactly. As any other flag, what is our flag? Initially it was just a flag that Betsy Ross sewed together. Like how is our flag initially not as ridiculous as this dude's flag, or as legitimate, or whatever you think? What's the difference?
I think it's his lack of a military-industrial complex.
Yeah.
Or a central bank, a lack of a central bank.
Yeah.
Definitely what they were alluding to in the video. Like, you got to have a central bank to be recognized as a country.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So, would you guys move there?
I'd maybe consider it.
Oh, so according to the Wikipedia article that I'm reading, it says he'll accept requests for citizenship, but only communists, neo-Nazis, and other extremists are ineligible. Would we be considered extremists?
I don't think so, man.
No? You think he's down with us? I mean, he did call it Liberland, right?
Yeah, I think he's. Well, they got the black and yellow color, so I'm assuming it means libertarian land.
Yeah.
From what I've read, it's libertarian land basically.
That's awesome.
It was started by 2 libertarians, from what I've read. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, they're trying to keep out the Nazis.
Yeah.
You can't hate on
I guess
that.
you got to be tolerant.
I don't.
I guess they want.
You mean intolerant?
Or they want to keep the people that are
right.
They want
you
only
wanna keep
tolerant.
the intolerant people out.
Right. Yeah, I can jive with that.
Yeah, man. Would I move there though? I don't know, man. I'd have to hear about. I'd have to hear about how it is. I'd have to hear about. Like what kind of plans. Like what are we gonna do?
Yeah, it's also like the location isn't like the most optimal as far as like political relations go.
Oh man, but I mean, it is tempting though. Like it's tempting to move to like fucking New Hampshire.
Yeah, Free State Project.
Yeah, it's like every year, like when I go to Porkfest, I'm just like, oh man, I would really like to move here, and it's so cool too. I was thinking the other day how cool it would be to live on like Rogers Campground, where Porkfest takes place. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just like I don't know. There's like some small like houses or trailers there. And,
does he let people live there like year round?
I think some people live there year round, as far as from what I can tell. Some people live there year round.
That's cool.
I'm not sure if any Free Staters live there year round. And maybe it wouldn't be that cool because you're not as like if you have Keene, you have like the Keene Activist Center, and you have like a bunch of activists around in that area. And Rogers, I think, is like an hour away or something, or 2.
Oh, really?
So yeah, maybe it wouldn't be the best place to live. But I mean, when you're there, it's just so awesome because you're surrounded by like what is it, like 1,000 or 1,500 libertarians. So it's just like, wow, what if we could all just stay here all year round? So in that aspect, Liberland sounds really cool. I would just want to like just hear some ideas as to what we would do to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. What do you guys think about like seasteading? Are you familiar with that at all?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I mean, I think that would be. I mean, if someone could get that off the ground, which I know there's like a huge like coalition of people trying to do that. I mean, I think that would be even better, just because you don't have to deal with any surrounding. You don't have any neighbors. You know what I mean? I mean, unless the Air Force decides to come over and bomb the fuck out of you, but until that happens, I mean,
yeah. Well,
you're
what's
pretty
the
much,
word like uncharted waters, or what is it?
Well, it's what?
International waters.
International
Yeah,
waters.
Like,
What-
who's
what is
that
that- what
guy?
is that-
Who's that guy in England who lived off one of those platforms?
No, you ever see that comedy skit where like the dude's in his bathtub? I forget what it was on, but the guy's in his bathtub, and he's basically selling international waters, quote unquote. And it's this it's basically water from the ocean in 4-gallon buckets, and you can pour it in your bathtub. And because you're in your bathtub and you're in this international waters, you could break all these crimes while you're in there. You can smoke crack or whatever, because you're in international waters. So nobody can touch you.
Yeah. What were you saying about
you never saw that
platform?
Oh no, there was an article. Oh geez, it probably goes back. I don't know, maybe about a year or two ago. It was all over Facebook, but it was basically they had these anti-aircraft platforms out in off the coast of England, and some of them were actually out in international waters. Well, this guy basically lived out there for years and basically had his own country, and he would boat out there, and I think he just recently died, but. Yeah, so that would be an opportunity, or just
how did he sustain himself out there? Did he just fish?
I guess, or he'd come ashore every now and then. I don't know. He basically,
dude, we could just go Swiss Valley Robinson, dude.
Yeah, man.
Man. That was a cool movie, dude.
What was it? In Michigan, or
how would you Swiss Valley Robinson, libertarian style, dude, voluntarist style.
What was that island on the Detroit River in Detroit where they were talking about? It was a park, and someone was looking to invest in it and buy it, and actually be a. That article was going around a while back.
Oh yeah,
they discussed that, but of course the city council would, they're going to fight it tooth and nail.
Oh, but, maybe I did read about that.
Yeah, we have to go back in the archives, but there's possibilities out there for
autonomous
societies to try to experiment and see what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, the idea is definitely tempting,
but it's just, do you think world governments would allow that to happen? I mean, would they care since it's just out in the middle of the ocean? Would they be like, whatever? Or would they feel like that's some kind of threat, at least ideologically to them?
Who knows? I mean, I kind of think, if you're not starting something with somebody, it's what are they going to care? And if we're libertarians and we're on there, we're pretty market-minding people. We're probably going to be having some cool businesses going on. We're probably going to be importing, exporting things. Countries might want to, buy some of the things that we're trying to export. They also might want us to buy some of their imports, so they could rely on our economy as we would rely on theirs. And that alone is a great form of diplomacy.
True.
Would that work for everything? Is everything perfect?
And would they be willing
to
trade?
Who knows? I think it would probably work better than bombing everybody.
Yeah, but do you think the U.S. government would allow businesses to conduct business with us? I mean, just think about Cuba. They
Cuba has a big history between
true, but that's sort of like an ideological thing. I mean, if we're up there and we're letting everybody do whatever drugs they want and gay marriage or whatever they want to do.
I don't think we're going to have a libertarian heroin fest over there. I mean, I'm sure jokes will be made initially.
Yeah,
but I don't think we're going to have a bunch of junkies moving to our country.
Well, obviously, I mean, because that's not how it would work. But I'm just saying, that would be the idea. Is there's this lawless country out there.
Well,
do we want to do business with them? I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I just don't think it would look like that. And I think if you're into those ideas, you don't think it would look like that either. I think you think that it might work. Especially because that's a place where you are more ready to flip the anarchy button, is a pork fest, because it's basically like your own pork fest over there.
Right.
You've got all these people that are down with the non-aggression principle and looking out for each other, helping each other out. It's uncanny.
Right.
It's just to be able to meet that many people at the same time, everybody, And if you could take a few thousand individuals like that and put them in a place, oh man, it just seems like the sky's the limit for awesome.
I think in this day and age with the internet, I think they definitely would, states would try to fight any initiatives like this, just because, what's the saying? At first they'll ignore you,
right?
Then, then they'll mock you, then they'll fight you, So there could be stages of it,
right?
As it becomes more popular, and as the ideas spread. Then maybe it could statism and governments would view it as a threat to and therefore squashing any opportunities that might arise or come about. So that's definitely something that you'd have to be aware of.
Okay, so Alex, you're not going to PorcFest this year, correct?
I doubt it.
You doubt it?
What week is that?
It's June 21st to the 28th.
I'm already taking like a week off in June. I don't know, man. I might be able to make it up for like a few days though.
Dude,
if you're like going at the end of the week.
I highly recommend it. Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean it's definitely enticing, man.
Yeah. Totally badass, dude. So yeah, so I think that's about it for this week, and we'll see you guys next week. And until then, have a good one. You know, you might want to stay off the Baltimore streets for a little bit. Good night.
What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power. What you gonna do when they show up in black suits on your street in army boots? And they'll silence you. What you gonna say when they strip your rights away and the tax man makes you pay for every bit of sweat you bled today? We don't need to run and hide. We won't be pushed off to the side. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power. Who you gonna trust when the judge is so unjust and the jury must discuss? Say you don't look like one of us. Where you gonna turn? Now the court has been adjourned and the lessons that you've learned are not as many as the bridges burn. We don't need to run and hide. We won't be pushed off to the side. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power. We don't need to run and hide. We won't be pushed off to the side. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower?